All right, turning now to our other big story this morning. CBS News has exclusively learned the U.S. military could strike Iran as soon as Saturday. However, sources say the timeline for any action could likely go beyond this weekend. CBS News senior national security correspondent Charlie D'Agata joins me from our D.C. bureau to discuss this. Charlie, good morning. So for viewers waking up to this news, which may be jarring to them, give us a bit of a pulse check and a fact check. How close is the U.S. military to taking action?
Yeah, you know, Errol, good point. Like, we don't want to be alarmist here, okay? But so it sounds very dramatic when you say the United States or the U.S. military has presented the White House with these options. That is true. That's what our sources are saying, and they are ready, will be ready by this weekend. Those are facts, as we understand it, from our own sources, our own reporting. Does that mean it's going to happen? Not necessarily, even the sources that we spoke to. Could happen this weekend, could happen next week, might not happen at all. It's part of what the White House calls a maximum pressure campaign. So you have this massive U.S. military buildup in tandem with the talks that are going on. And when you talk about a massive military buildup, it's big, and this is something that we can't exaggerate. We've got the USS Lincoln aircraft carrier. There are at least 10 warships, mostly destroyers, guided missile cruisers, capable of launching cruise missiles, Tomahawk cruise missiles, and we're talking about dozens on each of those ships. On the way, and we'll probably be there early next week, is the USS Gerald R. Ford, the largest warship in the U.S. fleet, which makes it one of the largest, if not the largest, in the world. Where that's important, and to show that this isn't a bluff, the Ford had been dispatched to the Caribbean. It's actually on its second or third extension now. So those decisions aren't taken lightly when you're going to take something that's been at sea since last June and sending it into a potential conflict zone. You're going to have 2 aircraft carriers there, and there are multiple squadrons of F-35 and F-22 fighters that are already there and have been flying around. Open source intelligence will tell us that. They're also refuelers. That's another indicator. You want to have refuelers if you're going to start bombing campaigns in Iran. In addition to that, C-17 cargo ships, cargo planes. They're moving around missile defense systems at places like Al Udeid, which is in Qatar, where we have the U.S. forces, and the U.S. forces had come under attack. If you remember last June, after Operation Midnight Hammer, where the United States attacked Iran's nuclear facilities, Iran retaliated there. So when you're looking at this massive buildup, you always ask the military, what is it for? Because they're very specific about strike packages. Could be limited strikes. They could be preparing for a long, drawn-out conflict with Iran. And the top of that priority is the protection of U.S. forces. We also understand that they've started withdrawing some of those U.S. troops in order to reduce the footprint in that region in the Middle East to places like Europe and the United States.
And at the same time, Charlie, the U.S. is touting progress in talks with Iran. They're still waiting, they say, for Tehran to come back with more details. And we spoke with an expert from the Middle East Institute earlier who said that Iran does have significant retaliatory capacity. So the effort is still to avoid this. Give us details on how so.
Yeah, Errol, there's no doubt that Iran can strike back. And most importantly, or the thing that the United States is looking at and Israel is looking at, is their ballistic missile capabilities, because Israel will be in the firing line, as they always are when something like this happens. And that is a priority for the United States and Israel to take seriously. As far as air defenses, that might be another question, because in the last bombing campaign, Operation Midnight Hammer, that was relatively successful in destroying a lot of Iran's capability in firing down incoming missiles or aircraft. Now, you talked about talks. Yes, the talks are going ahead. In fact, both sides had talked about progress, and they had given Iran, a matter of a couple of weeks to put together a proposal in order to avoid a military conflict. So that's where we stand right now.
All right, Charlie D'Agata on this major event. We'll stay close to your reporting, Charlie. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Errol.